Emma Williams moved through the crowded hallways of Oakwood High School like she was trying to disappear. At 17 years old, she had become an expert at making herself invisible. She held her worn backpack close to her chest and kept her eyes looking down at the floor as she walked from one classroom to another. More than anything, she hoped that nobody would pay attention to her. Being one of only 3 black students in the entire school made Emma feel different every single day. The weight of standing out pressed down on her shoulders like a heavy blanket she could never take off. She lived with her grandmother in a tiny apartment at the edge of their small town. Money was always running short, and most of Emma's clothes came from thrift stores or were passed down from other people. But Emma tried not to let this bother her too much. She had dreams that were much bigger than her current situation. Every morning before the sun came up, Emma would wake up at 5:30 to help her grandmother get ready for the day. Her grandmother, Mrs. Rose Williams, had been taking care of Emma since she was only 5 years old. Emma's parents had died in a car accident when she was little, and Grandma Rose had stepped in to raise her all by herself. Even though they did not have much money and life was often hard, Grandma Rose never failed to encourage Emma. She would look into Emma's eyes every morning and say, "Baby, you have a bright light shining inside you. Don't ever let anyone make that light go dim." At school, Emma was an excellent student. She always finished her homework before everyone else and got the highest grades in most of her classes. She was so smart that other students often asked her to help them with their schoolwork, and Emma was always happy to help. But when it came time to speak up in class discussions or join group activities, Emma would freeze up completely. The terrible fear of being judged or laughed at by her classmates kept her mouth shut and made her want to hide in the back of every room. There were 3 particular girls who seemed to take great pleasure in making Emma's school life as difficult as possible. The leader of this group was Rebecca, a popular girl with shiny blonde hair who always wore expensive designer clothes that probably cost more than Emma's grandmother made in a month. Rebecca's best friend was Lucy, who followed Rebecca around everywhere she went and agreed with everything she said. The third girl was Kate, who seemed to enjoy being mean to others just because she thought it was fun. These 3 girls had made Emma their favorite target. They would stand together in the hallway and whisper while pointing at Emma as she walked by. They made nasty comments about her old sneakers that had holes in them and her backpack that was falling up. Out at the seams, sometimes they would pretend to bump into Emma by accident in the crowded hallways, causing all of her books and papers to scatter across the floor while other students laughed. Emma kept telling herself that things would eventually get better if she just waited long enough. She tried to keep her head down and focus all of her energy on getting good grades. Her biggest dream was to earn a scholarship to college so she could get a good education and make her grandmother proud of her. But deep down in her heart, Emma felt completely alone and scared most of the time. One Tuesday afternoon, Emma sat by herself in the school cafeteria eating the simple lunch her grandmother had packed for her in a brown paper bag. She watched all the other students sitting together at their tables, laughing and talking with their friends about weekend plans and funny stories. Emma wondered what it would feel like to have a group of friends who really cared about her. She imagined what it would be like to belong somewhere and have people who looked forward to seeing her every day. As Emma sat there feeling lonely, she noticed Rebecca, Lucy, and Kate at a table across the cafeteria. They kept looking in her direction and whispering to each other while giggling. Emma could feel her stomach getting tight with worry. She had learned to recognize the signs when these girls were planning something mean. Emma quickly finished eating her sandwich and threw away her lunch bag. She wanted to get out of the cafeteria before the 3 girls decided to come over and bother her. As she walked toward the exit, she could hear them laughing louder behind her. What Emma did not know was that her life was about to change in ways she could never imagine. Sometimes the most difficult and scary moments in our lives turn out to be exactly what we need to discover who we really are and what we are truly capable of doing. Emma was about to learn that the quiet girl who tried so hard to be invisible actually had more strength and courage inside her than she ever dreamed possible. The next few days would test Emma in ways she had never been tested before, but they would also show her that her grandmother had been right all along about the special light that shined inside her heart. It was a cold Thursday morning that would change Emma's life forever. The wind was blowing hard outside Oakwood High School, and Emma pulled her thin jacket tighter round her body as she walked through the front doors. She had just spent the last hour taking her English test, and she felt pretty good about how she had done. Emma had studied hard the night before, sitting at the small kitchen table in her grandmother's apartment while Grandma Rose made them both cups of hot tea. When the lunch bell finally rang, Emma gathered up her books and papers, stuffing them carefully into her old backpack. Most of the other students rushed toward the cafeteria, excited to eat and talk with their friends, but Emma had different plans. She wanted to go to the library, where it was quiet and peaceful. The library was her safe place, where she could read books and do homework without anyone bothering her as Emma walked down the empty hallway toward the second floor. Her footsteps echoed softly on the tile floor. The building felt almost empty. Now, with most students already downstairs eating their lunch, Emma was grateful for these quiet moments between classes. They gave her time to think and breathe without feeling like everyone was watching her. But as she climbed the stairs, Emma realized she needed to make a quick stop at the restroom. She had been drinking a lot of water during her test because her mouth kept getting dry from nervousness. The second-floor restroom was usually empty during lunchtime, which made Emma feel more comfortable about going there. Emma pushed open the heavy wooden door to the girls' restroom and stepped inside. The room was quiet and clean, with white tiles on the walls and bright lights overhead. She walked over to one of the sinks and turned on the water. Grateful for this moment of peace and quiet, as Emma washed her hands with the pink soap from the dispenser. She looked at herself in the mirror above the sink. She saw a thin girl with kind eyes and neat hair that she had braided that morning before school. Her clothes were simple but clean. A pair of jeans that were a little too big for her and a blue sweater that used to belong to someone else stopped suddenly. Emma heard footsteps behind her. The sound made her heart jump a little bit. She looked up into the mirror and saw 3 figures walking through the door. It was Rebecca, Lucy, and Kate. Emma's stomach dropped like a stone. She could tell immediately that something was different about this moment. The way they walked into the restroom was not casual or accidental. They moved like they had planned this. Rebecca spoke first, her voice sounding sweet but fake, like honey that had gone bad. Well, look what we have here," she said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "It's little Emma, all by herself just like always." Emma quickly turned off the water and tried to move toward the door. She wanted to leave right away because something about this situation felt wrong and scary. But before she could take more than 2 steps, Lucy moved to stand right in front of the door, blocking Emma's only way out of the restroom. At the same time, Kate positioned herself on the other side, making it impossible for Emma to escape. Emma felt trapped like a small animal in a cage. Her heart started beating very fast, and her hands began to shake. This had never happened to her before. Usually when these 3 girls were mean to her, they would say something nasty and then walk away. But this time felt completely different. This time felt dangerous and planned. "Where do you think you're going so fast?" Kate asked with a mean smile on her face. "We just want to have a nice little conversation with you. Don't you want to talk to us?" Emma's voice came out very quiet and shaky when she tried to speak. "Please, I just want to go eat my lunch," she said, barely louder than a whisper. She could feel her whole body trembling now. Rebecca laughed out loud, but it was not a happy laugh. It was cold and cruel. "Oh my goodness, she actually talks," Rebecca said, pretending to be surprised. "I was starting to think that maybe you couldn't speak at all. Tell me something, Emma. Where exactly do you buy those interesting clothes you wear? Do you find them in the garbage bins behind the shopping mall?" Lucy and Kate both started giggling like Rebecca had said something very funny. Emma felt her face get hot with embarrassment and shame. She looked down at her simple jeans and blue sweater. She knew they were not expensive or fashionable like the clothes these girls wore, but her grandmother had worked hard to buy them for her. Lucy pointed at Emma's backpack, which was sitting on the floor next to the sink. "And what about that old bag?" she said with a nasty tone in her voice. "Did your grandmother find that in a dumpster somewhere?" When Lucy mentioned her grandmother, Emma felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. How did these girls know about Grandma Rose? Emma had never talked about her family life at school. She tried to keep her personal life private because she was afraid of exactly this kind of situation. "Leave my grandmother out of this," Emma said, finding a tiny bit of courage from somewhere deep inside her heart. Emma stood there in the white-tiled restroom, feeling trapped between the row of sinks behind her and the three girls who had cornered her. She felt smaller and more helpless than she had ever felt in her entire life. Rebecca, Lucy, and Kate continued saying mean and hurtful things to her, their voices echoing off the bathroom walls. But then something very unexpected began to happen inside Emma's heart and mind. Instead of becoming even more scared and wanting to disappear completely, Emma started to feel something she had never experienced before. It was like a quiet but powerful strength was slowly rising up from somewhere deep inside her chest. The feeling was warm and steady, like a candle flame that refuses to be blown out by the wind. Rebecca's voice got louder and more angry as she continued her attack. "You know what your real problem is, Emma," she said, pointing her finger at Emma's face. "You walk around this school thinking you're so much better than everyone else with your perfect test scores on your goody-two-shoes behavior. But we all know the real truth about you. You're nothing but a poor girl who doesn't belong in our nice school." When Emma heard these words, she closed her eyes for just a moment. In that quiet second, her mind filled with thoughts of her grandmother. She remembered all those early mornings when Grandma Rose would sit with her at their small kitchen table, helping her get ready for school. She could almost hear her grandmother's gentle voice saying encouraging words and telling her how proud she was of Emma's hard work. Emma thought about all the sacrifices her grandmother had made over the years to give her a chance at a better life. Grandma Rose worked long hours cleaning office buildings at night just to pay for their tiny apartment and buy Emma's school supplies. She remembered her dreams of going to college someday and becoming a teacher so she could help other children who felt lost and alone, just like she did. When Emma opened her eyes again, something had completely changed inside her. The fear that had been filling her eyes just moments before was gone. In its place was something much stronger. The clear, bright determination that made her stand up straighter and look directly at the three girls who had been tormenting her. "You know what?" Emma said, her voice now steady and clear instead of shaky and scared. "You're absolutely right about one thing. I am very different from you." Rebecca, Lucy, and Kate all stopped talking at once. They looked surprised and confused by the sudden change in Emma's voice and the way she was standing. They had expected her to cry or beg them to leave her alone. But instead she seemed calm and strong. Emma reached down and carefully pulled her phone out of her backpack. Her hands were no longer trembling like they had been just minutes before. She opened the camera application on her phone and pressed the red record button with steady finger. "Yes, my name is Emma Williams," she said, looking directly into the camera lens with clear, confident eyes, "and I want to tell all of you a story about what real strength looks like." The three girls stood completely frozen in place, not understanding what was happening or what Emma was planning to do with her phone. Emma continued speaking to the camera, her voice getting stronger and more powerful with every word she said. "I want to tell you about a 17-year-old girl who wakes up every single morning at 5:30, before the sun even comes up, to help her elderly grandmother get dressed and eat breakfast. This girl takes 3 different buses to get to school each day because her family cannot afford to buy a car. She wears clothes from thrift stores and carries a backpack that is falling apart. But she keeps everything clean and neat, because her grandmother taught her the true dignity comes from how you treat yourself and others, not from expensive things." The bathroom had become completely quiet except for the sound of Emma's voice. Even Rebecca seemed unable to speak. "I want to tell you about a girl who has been called terrible names and pushed round by bullies, who think they are better than her," Emma continued, her eyes still focused on her phone camera. "A girl who has been made to feel ashamed of her family and her life. But today, right now, this same girl has realized something very important. She has learned that her value as a human being is not decided by cruel people who want to hurt her. Her worth comes from the love in her heart, the big dreams in her mind, and the incredible strength that has been passed down to her from generations of strong women who never gave up. No matter how hard life became." Emma slowly turned her phone camera toward Rebecca, Lucy, and Kate, who now looked very uncomfortable and much smaller than they had seemed just minutes before. "To anyone who might watch this video," Emma said, still speaking in her strong, clear voice, "if you have ever felt alone or scared, if anyone has ever made you feel like you don't matter or don't belong somewhere, please know that you do belong. Your dreams are important. Your voice matters, and nobody, absolutely nobody, has the right to make you feel bad about who you are." Emma carefully saved the video to her phone and then looked up at the 3 girls who had been making her life so difficult for so long. Rebecca, Lucy, and Kate just stood there in the bathroom, unable to say anything at all. Their faces had turned very pale, and they looked confused and uncertain about what had just happened. For the first time ever, Emma could see these girls clearly for what they really were. They were not the powerful and confident bullies she had always thought they were. Instead, they were just scared and insecure teenagers who had been saying mean things to other people to try to make themselves feel better about their own problems. Emma's voice was calm and steady when she spoke to them. "I am going to share this video with other people," she told them, "but I'm not doing it to hurt you or get you in trouble. I'm doing it because I want to help other students who might be going through the same things that I have been going through." Rebecca was the first one to find her voice again. She looked panicked and worried as she spoke quickly. "Emma, please, wait. You can't post that video online. We were just playing around. We didn't really mean all those things we said to you." Emma looked directly at Rebecca and asked her a simple question. "You didn't mean what exactly? You didn't mean the cruel things you said about my grandmother who raised me. You didn't mean the comments about my clothes and my old backpack. You didn't mean it when you told me that I don't belong in this school." The 3 girls looked at each other with wide eyes, and Emma could see that they were finally starting to understand how much their words had really hurt her for the first time. They were thinking about how their actions had affected another person's feelings. Lucy's eyes began to fill up with tears, and she looked like she might start crying. "I'm sorry," Lucy said in a very quiet whisper that Emma could barely hear. "I'm really, really sorry, Emma. I didn't know we were hurting you so badly." Emma nodded her head to show that she heard Lucy's apology. "I appreciate that you said sorry, Lucy. It means something to me that you feel bad about what happened. But just saying sorry is not enough anymore. Things at this school need to change so that other students don't have to go through what I went through." That evening, Emma sat next to her grandmother on their old couch in their small living room. Before she posted the video on the internet, she wanted to show it to Grandma Rose first. She wanted her grandmother to see what she had done and to hear the words she had spoken in that bathroom. As Grandma Rose watched the video on Emma's phone, tears began to stream down her wrinkled cheeks. She listened carefully to every word that Emma had said, and her face showed how proud and amazed she was. When the video ended, she pulled Emma close to her and hugged her tightly. "Baby girl, I am so incredibly proud of you," Grandma Rose said with her voice full of emotion. "You finally found that bright light I always told you about, and you let it shine so beautifully for the whole world to see." Emma posted the video on her social media accounts with a simple but powerful message. "This video is for everyone who has ever felt like they don't belong somewhere. You do matter. Your story is important. Stand up tall and speak your truth with courage." Within just a few hours, something amazing started to happen. The video began to spread from person to person across the internet. First, students from Emma's own school started sharing it with their friends. Then students from other schools in different towns began watching it and sharing it too. Before long, people from all across the country were watching Emma's powerful message and feeling inspired by her brave words. The comments on the video poured in from everywhere. People wrote things like, "Emma, you are so brave and strong. Thank you for speaking up for all of us who have felt alone." Another person wrote, "This video made me cry happy tears. I have been in your situation too, and you helped me feel less alone." Someone else commented, "You inspired me to finally tell my own story and ask for help." By the time Emma woke up the next morning and got ready for school, her video had been watched by thousands and thousands of people. When she walked through the front doors of Oakwood High School, she immediately noticed that everything felt different. Students she had never even talked to before came up to her in the hallways. A quiet boy named James from her math class walked up to her nervously. "Emma, I watched your video last night, and it was incredible," he said. "I have been bullied by other kids too, but I never had the courage to stand up for myself the way you did. You inspired me to be braver." A girl named Maria from her history class also approached Emma. "Your video made me realize that I need to talk to my parents about some problems I've been having at school. I was too embarrassed before. But you showed me that it's okay to ask for help." Even some of Emma's teachers came to talk to her. Mrs. Thompson, her English teacher, pulled Emma aside after class to speak with her privately. "Emma, what you did yesterday took incredible courage," Mrs. Thompson said with admiration in her voice. "The principal wants to meet with you today. Even the school board members have heard about your video. Your brave voice is already creating real change in our school." 3 months had passed since Emma's video became famous on the internet, and Oakwood High School looked like a completely different place than it had been before. The long hallways that used to feel cold and unwelcoming were now filled with a new kind of energy. Students smiled at each other more often. There was a feeling of kindness and acceptance that had never existed there before. Emma had been asked to speak at a special school assembly in front of all the students and teachers as she stood behind the wooden podium on the stage. Looking out at hundreds of faces in the auditorium, she thought about how much everything had changed. It was not just the school that was different. Emma herself felt like a completely new person inside her own heart. Emma's voice was clear and confident when she began to speak. Very different from the scared whisper she used to have a few months ago. I felt like I was invisible to everyone round me, she told the quiet audience. I believed that staying quiet and not causing any trouble would keep me safe from being hurt. I thought that if I just kept my head down and didn't make any waves, the pain and loneliness would eventually go away by itself. But I learned something very important during that time. Being silent doesn't actually protect us from harm. When we stay quiet about bullying and cruelty, we are only protecting the people who want to hurt us. The entire auditorium was completely silent as every single student listened carefully to Emma's words. She could see teachers nodding their heads in agreement, and even some students had tears in their eyes. Emma continued her speech by talking about all the wonderful changes that had happened at their show. Oh, today, I want to share with you some of the amazing things that have happened in our school community. We now have a peer support group that meets every Wednesday after school. Students who are having a hard time or feeling sad can come to this group and find other students who understand exactly what they are going through. Nobody has to feel alone anymore. She also explained how the school had started a buddy system, where older students were paired up with younger students who might need a friend or someone to talk to. This program had helped many shy or lonely students feel more connected to their school community. Emma looked out into the audience and smiled when she saw Lucy sitting in the third row. Lucy had completely changed her behavior after watching Emma's video. She had become one of the most helpful and active members of the peer support group. Lucy had also made a public apology to Emma and to other students she had been mean to in the past for the last 3 months. Lucy had been working very hard to repair the damage she had helped create and to become a better person. We also have new school rules that make it very clear that bullying of any kind will not be allowed. Emma explained to the audience, it doesn't matter if someone is being mean about race, or money, or appearance, or anything else. This behavior will not be tolerated in our school. But we have something that is even more powerful than rules and policies. We have created a community where people actually care about each other and want to help each other succeed. Principal Johnson was sitting in the front row, and Emma could see him nodding his head with pride as she spoke. The positive changes at Oakwood High School had become so well known that other schools in their area were now asking for advice. They wanted to learn how to use Emma's story and their school's response as a model for creating safer and more welcoming environments for all students. Emma went on to share some of the letters and messages she had received from students at other schools across the country. I want to read you part of a letter I got from a girl in California. She said, pulling out a piece of paper, she wrote, Dear Emma, your video helped me find the courage to tell my parents about the bullying I was facing at my school. Because of your example, I learned that my voice matters and that I don't have to suffer in silence. Thank you for showing me that I am not alone. She also read part of another letter from a boy in Texas who had written, I used to be one of the students who was mean to others because I thought it would make me feel better about my own problems. After watching your video, I realized how much pain I was causing other people. I have apologized to everyone I hurt, and now I am working hard to be a kinder person every day. As Emma looked out at all the faces in the auditorium, she felt overwhelmed with gratitude and hope. She thought about her grandmother, who was probably at home right now getting ready for her evening job, and how proud Grandma Rose would be to see Emma standing confidently on this stage. The most important thing I have learned through all of This, Emma said as she began to finish her speech, is that we all have a choice to make every single day. We can choose to be part of the problem by being mean or staying silent when we see others being hurt, or we can choose to be part of the solution by being kind, speaking up for what is right, and helping others feel like they belong. Each one of us has the power to make our school and our world a better place. The auditorium erupted in loud applause as Emma finished speaking. Students and teachers stood up from their seats, clapping and cheering for the brave girl who had found her voice and used it to create positive change for everyone. The end.